Okay, let's do this. Welcome back to some Final Fantasy Alicious discussion with Pez. How you doing, guys? So this is the third section that I want to do daily. Sort of two really big news, important topics, and then just a third just to discuss with you guys in between me recording sort of Pez radios and theory videos, just to get back to really chatting with you guys, because this was how I started the channel. I would just script and think about what I wanted to say, get the camera rolling, and it just got to flow it natural. As the channel's got bigger and I've started thinking too much about it and recording too much and taking like 50 takes, I'm just going to try to get back to chatting with you guys. Before I jump into the main discussion section, I just want to say this series, Pez Dawn News with Pez, I fucked up the name. I don't like the name, and there's a lot of improvements. I'm still trying to iron out the direction I want to take it. The first thing that you probably notice is the thumbnails. They kind of changed for a while. They kind of looked uniformed and the same, and there was an ometer on it. I thought that was a good idea, but after a couple of days of actually doing it, and then looking back, it's too uniformed. It doesn't look, I don't like it, so I'm going to be switching those up, but I'm still going to let you guys know the importance of the video, so you know whether this is what I consider really important news or derpy news. And this discussion, I would say, middle down the line. So good DLC versus bad DLC, derp DLC versus serious DLC, fun or story. This is what I feel is the most divisive topic right now in the fan base, or it's what dividing people. And it's been a year of nothing but 15 DLC news, more or less. We've had other bits, pieces like the Zodiac, but more or less it's just been getting bombarded with assassins, being bombarded with VR and driving and co-op. It's apparent that with the whole Final Fantasy fan base, we're not massive fans of DLC to start with. There's tons of fans who don't like DLC, people who just outright hate DLC. They might not hate it with all of their games and all of their franchises, but with Final Fantasy, they just detest it outright. And there's no winning with those people. Unfortunately, I feel DLCs are not going to stop with Final Fantasy. I mean, I think it's pretty much a fact at this point. When you look at how much they've done for 15, the sheer volume. I believe that even if they hadn't have run out of time, and they had all the time in the world, we would still have just as hefty a DLC structure as we got. I think this is just the new direction Square Enix are moving in. This is where they can make more money. And this is what they believe us Westerners like. So I don't ever foresee DLC stopping. So where does that leave the rest of us fans, as Final Fantasy fans? Well, it leaves us in two camps. And I think that one camp is kind of just trying to be more reasonable and optimistic and not just complain and bitch about everything. The example I'll give is Assassins. So it's a free DLC that came out. And while I played it, I haven't reviewed it yet. I'm going to say I didn't like it. Didn't like it. I rated it, even on my stream, a 6.5 out of 10. And sort of coming away and even thinking a bit longer, I'll probably actually go as low as a 5 with that Assassin's DLC. Because it just made no damn sense. Yes, it was free. Yes, it was fun. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, the treasure little hunt riddle thing, while it was the most arsehole riddle game that has ever existed, it was really fun to play. And the parkouring wasn't as good as it looked in the trailer, running across the woods, but it was still fun. But it made no sense. To the point it made such little sense that they actually tried to give you some sort of story element, some sort of backstory. They talked about how Lestalum had been years under oppression, but there was a rumour, a legend of the assassin. And it was just fucking pointless, because everyone knows it's not canonical. That's not actually true. I don't even know if it's canonical or not. I assume not, because it's just a pointless collab and we shouldn't take it seriously. But you shouldn't do that, Square. Like, you shouldn't actually take a story that is already kind of a mess and already has so much you need to explain, so many plot holes, so much fleshing out that you need to do, and you have admitted you need to do. This is the thing about 15 in particular. The second it came out, Tabata said, oh yeah, we've heard these complaints. We've heard a lot of people in Japan don't like it for this, which by the way was open world. They hate the open world in Japan. And so do I. I hope they cut that. But even Japan was complaining about parts of the story not being fleshed out, and most definitely us here in the West. And Tab just said they've taken that on board and they're looking to fix it ASAP. Now here we are with, a year later with pretty much only a Promptos DLC. That is the only DLC that I have seen that I can say, yes, that added something to the story. Even the expanded Chapter 13 barely added anything. And Episode Gladiolus really didn't add much. Added pretty much a little bit of backstory to Corleones, but more character development than anything. But outside of that, Square Enix have just been releasing waves of pointless DLC that aren't going to add anything to the story. For, well, no, Comrades, I think it's going to add something to the story because it's set during the 10-year time gap. Whether it actually does, I don't know. But things like the fishing, the photo DLCs, or this latest Assassins, what is the purpose of these? Other than to be fun. That's the thing, the fan base doesn't want fun right now, and in fact, that's what is the big divide. That's what's coming across as an insult, is you know it wasn't completed, you said you were going to try to fix it, and we're getting nothing but derpy DLCs. Now, yes, again, you can say it's free. You can say certain DLCs don't take much resources. Arguments I see online all the time, and you're right. But the problem is, they don't have to be derpy. That's what I don't get. That's what I don't understand. Is the people who talk in the defense of DLCs just defend everything. Oh, boo-hoo, you've got a free DLC. Those are the kind of patronising comments people will make. There's no reason for DLC to be derpy. It can be serious. It can add something to the story. Every single piece of content that Square Enix added after 15, if it had been serious, if it had added to the story, and it doesn't have to be big. Now, I'm not talking about some grand, huge arcs, because I understand, like Tabitha said, Ardyn's would take... There's so much backstory with Ardyn, it would take an entire game. But it doesn't have to be something as big as that. I mean, even just take the cup noodle hat. Rather than add a cup noodle hat, why don't you add something people actually want? And isn't just going to come across like a slap in the face because you've advertised cup noodle in our game to a kind of criminal degree. You even hightailed one of our 30th anniversary events to advertise cup noodle some more, and now you add just a cup noodle hat. And it's just like fucking insults all the way, because what you could have done instead of the cup noodle hat, I don't know, why don't you release a Nyx Ulrich outfit? And the first time you actually equip the outfit, it cuts to a narrated backstory of Nyx meeting Noctis. Most fans don't know this, but Nyx actually met Noctis. There's a little backstory before the game, sort of before he set off with the bros, where Noctis was actually driven by Nyx. God damn, I can barely speak. Oh, no, why not show that? Why not have it narrated? Why not even just have it flash up as you equip the outfit? And you know what? The fans would go wet for it. They would be moist because they've always wanted to see more of Nyx in the movie. He was an integral part of 15's story. He was the hero. Why don't you just throw in a little outfit that just hails to him, tells a little bit of story, add something? Now, even if you don't want to add that little story bit from before the game, why don't you even just show the cutscene of Nyx looking to dawn and his last words were about Noctis? That would be amazing. Kind of like what you did with Regis, you showed a clip in. Little things like that. Instead of stupid Power Ranger suits that you originally planned to do. Why didn't you plan to do a Lucii outfit where it makes the bros look kind of ethereal? With how much time and effort went into that Assassin's DLC, which there was a hell of a lot of it. There was actually some really good cutscenes. It kind of looked, some of the shaders looked improved. They had some pretty integral characters there and some really crazy sort of town cutscenes where Noctis are getting attacked, blah blah, a lot went into it. And good for you, Square. I don't know how much you've earned for that Assassin's DLC, but you know what would have worked better? Is if instead of that you'd have thrown something like an Omen DLC, where we actually got to play out the Omen. Or give us some sort of logic to what the Omen story was telling us. What was the story of Prina? What was the story of the messengers? What was the story of the summons? Why was it there? Was it showing a backstory for Ardyn? Why did it have Charon's Ferry there? What was going on in this trailer? You could even just show that in a DLC. You spent all this time and effort creating an FF15 Assassin's DLC. I can barely get a single emphatic post on my Facebook group about it. But you post a single load screen saying that Bahamut slayed Ifrit, the fucking fan base goes crazy. They love it. They go wild. And we have discussions about it. Why? Because it added something to the story. And I mean, it's endless. I could be here all day giving examples of really amazing, quick to do, easy DLC that would have added something to the story and fans would have loved. And that's the thing with Final Fantasy fans. If you planned Square Enix to come out and introduce a hefty DLC structure to a fan base that has typically not been used to it or warm to it, because if you'd have looked at customer feedback for 13.2's DLC and Lightning Returns, you'll see people weren't that enthusiastic about it. But if they'd have come out instead and every DLC had meant something, that's why people have the biggest gripes with these DLC and why people don't buy into a lot of people's logic that because it's free you should be happy with it. Shut up and have your lot. Can't complain about your little bitch because you didn't pay for it. Well, that's not the point. That's really not the point. Final Fantasy fans, we're all happy to hand over our money. It's got nothing to do with it being free. It's got nothing to do with the size of it or when it's coming out or how it's coming out. It's more about the content of it. We don't want all of these fucking pathetic DLCs attached to our game. I'm rounding this video out because I will have a habit of talking on and on for ages if I don't stop. Now, who's going to disagree with me on this? Now, let's say they had every single piece of DLC had been serious DLC with canonical weight and meaning, and it answered some of the things. Where would the fan base be in terms of their perspective of DLC? Would they be like they are now, most of them absolutely hating it? Every single time a piece of DLC, they're just slapping their forehead, square it at it again, going to every YouTube video that Square Enix are releasing. It's got a 50% like and dislike ratio, and the whole comment section says cancer and toxic, and oh, this is what you're wasting your time and resources on. Square Enix are dead, Final Fantasy 15 is dead. We've all seen the fucking comments, and while I hate them as much as anyone, I get why they're being said, and Square Enix have no one but themselves to blame. Because if you'd wanted DLC to become an accepted, and wanted, and even desired part of the Final Fantasy fan base, you know, you would have done it. You could have done it seriously, and if you'd had done it seriously, and all of them had been serious so far, I mean, I'm not adverse to throwing the odd 1 or 2 fun bits in. That's why when that Moogle Chocobo Carnival came out, and everyone was kicking off about that. When I streamed it, I kind of said about, oh, hold up, guys. Maybe it's just a little fun one, just a little season one. Maybe just a little filler between the really serious ones. But it wasn't. It wasn't. We've had more derp at this point than we have anything of significance, and it looks like it's continuing. While it might have seemed smart to you to do little derpy, fun cup noodle ads, and you probably got paid a shitload of money for it, and the Assassin's Creed collab probably made you a crap loads of money, and we already know that Sony have paid you a lot for the VR stuff. That making a quick buck attitude is really going to come and bite you on the arse when in the future no one buys FF DLCs because they know they're just not worth it. And in fact, if anything, just confuses and ruins the integrity of the main game, which I certainly think the Assassin's DLC did. Made goddamn no sense whatsoever, and it was frustrating me even during the live stream. And even if we just look at the entire universe and the scores it's been getting, FFUni did a fantastic survey on this. Most of it's been getting a 6 and a 7 out of 10 average, some as low as 2 and 3 out of 10. So we can comfortably say your DLCs have been a failure at this point, Square, and that right there is the exact issue why. You simply cannot, and I can't believe I'm having to say this, add derpy fun piss take DLCs when there are already so many holes waiting to be filled in the main game, and you promise you'd fill them. So that's a real fuck up on your half, Square Enix. But there it is, guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Until tomorrow. Cupnoodle!